need to start right now. We're on a planet that has a problem. Gotta solve it, get involved and do it now. We need to build a better future, and we need to start right now. Make it cleaner, make it cleaner, make it last, make it fast, and do it now. We need to build a better future, and we need to start right now.
With the Canary Coalition.
Or hesitating, we must think wise, take no more lies, and do it now. We need to build a better future, and we need to start right now. We need to build a better future, and we need to start right now.
I'm Dave Worley with 350 Asheville. We are co-sponsoring today's event with the Sierra Club. So thanks to them and thanks to all of you for showing up, especially the folks that brought signs. Great job. Thank you for bringing those. Today's event is one of 801 planned around the country and around the world in 90 different countries. So you are part of something really big today. So thanks for coming. So 350 Asheville, just a little bit about us. 350 Asheville is one of hundreds of local grassroots organizations in 188 countries around the world. And we're all aligned with 350.org. So 350, the number, in case you're wondering, that refers to the safe amount in parts per million of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. So right now, most recent measurement, we hit 407. So we got some work to do. That's what we're all about today. So 350.org was founded in 2008 by a small group, including the well-known environmental author Bill McKibben. And 350 uses online campaigns, grassroots organizing, and mass public actions like today to oppose coal, oil, and gas projects and take money out of the companies that are making our earth warmer and build 100% clean energy solutions that work for all. So that's 350.org. So our local 350 Asheville group started in 2012 with a pledge of resistance to the Keystone Pipeline. And lately we've been focusing on the transition to 100%. Nice, thank you. So lately we've been focusing on the transition to 100% renewable energy in our community. That's our big focus right now. And there are exciting things are happening right now in that area. You're going to hear more about it later, but our city council will be considering a 100% renewable energy resolution for Asheville soon. And we have some folks who are going to be addressing that directly later in the program. So we also want to call your attention to some tables we have up in the back here. And 350, we have our own table up there. If you want to sign up and join us and get involved in future events, please do that. And also, we have a petition up there to sign that we're going to get to City Council showing our support for the 100% renewables resolution. So the petition's up there, and there's some other tables up there. Also, if you're taking pictures today, I hope you are. Take some pictures of the event, and then we want you to post them on Facebook, and you can tag us at 350 Asheville. Or you can also use the hashtag #RiseForClimate. We want to see those pictures and see all the pictures from you all in addition to the ones that we take, and we want to be able to share all that. And we have sign making. So there's some folks up there at the 350 table. We have some signs, waving their hands up there. We have some signs that you can make. You can use your own signs, and then later we're going to have a giant photo op. And it's going to be great. So all your own signs, our banners, signs you make, we're going to have a giant photo op, and that's going to go along with the petition to the City Council to show this massive support for going to 100% renewables. So please get involved that way. All right. So last thing, we have our MC for the day is going to be Ken Brame from the Sierra Club. So Ken is the chair of also the North Carolina Sierra Club Political Committee, as well as a member of the North Carolina Chapter Executive Committee. He's also a member of the National Sierra Club Political Committee and past chair of that committee and chair of the local WNC Sierra Club Political Committee. So when Ken is not working to elect good environmental elected officials, he has also lobbied local elected leaders to pass good environmental legislation. So everybody give a warm welcome to Ken Brain.
Wow, it turned out it's not raining, we got sunshine. What a great day, right, for protecting the environment. Sierra Club is proud to be a co-sponsor of this event. If you're not familiar with the Sierra Club, we're the nation's oldest and largest environmental organization, founded by John Muir back in the 1890s. So we're over 100 years old. We have over 3 million members and supporters nationwide, over 100,000 here in North Carolina, and a very active group here locally that meets the first Thursday of every month. We've got a table in the back. We mentioned the petitions. We've got petitions there to sign. We'll have people walking around with the clipboard trying to get you to sign the petition to go to City Council to make sure they know that this community overwhelmingly supports moving to renewable and clean energy. So that's what we got to do. Thank you. I want to recognize a few other people here that have tables and that are here supporting this event. First, we've got Indivisible Asheville's Climate Group, and they've got a table in the back, and also we'll have petitions there. We've got the Energy Savers Network, which if you're not familiar with that, it's an opportunity for you to do two things at once that are great. First is help people in moderate and lower income housing that need help weatherizing their house, plugging holes in the wall, putting in more energy efficient light, things like that. And they're looking for volunteers. It's an entire volunteer organization going out and doing that. So that's one of the big things that they do. So you're helping people who need help by saving them money and saving the environment at the same time. We've also got Blue Horizons. Blue Horizons is a joint partnership with the city, the county, and Duke Energy with the sole purpose of saving energy so that we do not have to build a peaking unit here in Asheville. And we're well on our way to accomplishing that goal, but they're doing good work, so check out what they're doing at their table at the back. So again, thank you for coming out today, and now's the opportunity to introduce our first speaker. Brownie Newman, where are you hiding?
Right here.
Right here, okay, behind me. You snuck in behind me. I've had a chance to know Brownie for a long time. Brownie's background was doing major full-time work protecting the environment, working with some statewide organizations and regional organizations, focused around one of their big achievements that Brownie was able to help do was get the state of North Carolina to pass a Clean Smokestacks Act, which put restrictions on coal-powered plants both here and in our neighboring states to keep pollution from coming into the mountains. If you're new to the mountains, you wouldn't see the views you see today if that hadn't passed. So Brownie was really instrumental in organizing support to get that passed. He then became one of the founders of FLS Solar, and they really took off. And for the last 3 years, he's had his own solar company, Headwaters Solar, and he's the founder and CEO of that. And they're doing great things to get solar energy out there, renewable energy, both in the private sector and as well as the other things. But the last thing, the reason that I want to really pat Brownie on the back, he's chair of our Buncombe County Commission. And as in that role, he led the charge, along with the environmental groups in this city, to basically make sure and get the county to pass by 100% clean, renewable energy resolution that all county operations would be 100% renewable by 2030. Probably the most aggressive goal of any city or any county in the Southeast. He did that. And secondly, for the entire community by 2042. Ronnie, come on out.
Hello, Asheville. It's great to see you this afternoon. Ken, thank you for that great introduction. I am honored to represent you on the Buncombe County Commission. It's great to be with you today for this rally for climate, jobs, and justice. We are here to advocate for policies to assure that our community and our country will be powered by sources of energy that are clean and renewable and do not threaten future generations' lives, liberty, and their ability to pursue their happiness. I was asked to say a few things today about Buncombe County's goal to commit itself to 100% renewable energy, and how we're pursuing that goal. Before I go into that, I'd like to share a few words about the movement for clean energy and clean air in Western North Carolina, some of which Ken just touched on. Before I was elected to the county commission and the city council, and before I got involved in the solar community here in North Carolina, I was the director of a local grassroots environmental organization called the Western North Carolina Alliance, which is now called Mountains Free. Great organization. The biggest concern, as Ken said, when I was working at the Alliance was air pollution in the mountains. The majority of which was being generated by coal-fired power plants operated by Duke Energy and the Tennessee Valley Authority. So back in 2000, we were one of the groups in a coalition that formed to advocate for what became known as the North Carolina Clean Smokestacks Act, along with a lot of other great environmental organizations and other organizations across the state like the Canary Coalition. At that time, none of the 13 coal-fired power plants in North Carolina, which generated the majority of all the electricity we use in North Carolina, had basic pollution controls on them to remove sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide, which create acid rain and smog. Although it required a statewide effort, it was citizens and political leaders in Western North Carolina who really led the effort for the passage of the Clean Smokestacks Act through the North Carolina legislature. This legislation mandated an 85% reduction in air pollution from coal-fired power plants. Thanks to the passage of the Clean Smokestacks Act, the coal-fired power plant here in Asheville became the first electric coal-fired power plant in North Carolina to be retrofitted with basic pollution controls. And by 2012, all of the large coal-fired power plants across the state were also retrofitted. And in many ways, as Ken said, our air today is much cleaner as a result. Mountain visibility has been greatly improved. The number of unhealthy air days when the elderly and kids with asthma are advised to not go outside have been significantly reduced across the state. When the Clean Smokestacks Act was first conceived, few thought that it would be possible to pass this bill through the General Assembly because it was thought to require an increase in electricity rates for all the customers in North Carolina, and also because it required taking on Duke Energy, which is one of the most powerful political voices in the state. What are the chances that the environmental community would be able to pass such a bill in a conservative southern state when no other state in the country had ever passed such a bill? But after 3 years of work by thousands of people, the Clean Smokestacks Act was passed through the legislature. That's right. It's great day. And it died 1,000 deaths before it actually was passed, I'll tell you. How did this happen? It happened with the help of leaders from the medical community who pointed out that the higher healthcare costs imposed by air pollution far exceeded the cost of installing pollution controls on power plants. It was business people who were concerned about lack of air quality and impacts on business. It was fishermen who didn't want to have mercury in our state's lakes and rivers. It was the parents of kids with asthma. And it was just regular people who cared about our mountains and our forests and rivers and knew that the status quo was not acceptable. While the passage of the North Carolina Clean Smokestacks Act significantly reduced the pollutants that cause acid rain and smog, it did nothing to change the fact that we are still burning fossil fuels, which generate the greenhouse gas emissions that drive global warming. So even as we celebrated the passage of the North Carolina Clean Smokestacks Act, we knew that it was just the beginning of the fight for clean energy and clean air, and not the end. In the time since that bill has passed, the threat of climate change has gotten much worse. Fortunately, the tools that we have to fight climate change have gotten much better. In 2008, I joined an upstart solar company here in Asheville called FLS Energy. At the time, we had 7 employees. In 2009, we started planning what would become the first utility-scale solar farm in western North Carolina. It was located on a retired landfill just outside Canton, the town of Canton in Haywood County. The project covered about 4 acres of land. It took us about a year to plan it and install it. The changes that have happened in the solar energy industry since that time are truly revolutionary. That first solar farm that FLS installed in Canton in 2009 cost us about $7 a watt to install. Solar farms are being installed in North Carolina today at a cost below $1 a watt, a more than 80% reduction in just 8 or 9 years. And as I said, that first solar farm in 2009 was a 0.5 megawatt system. It took us a year to plan it. By 2015, FLS, which is just one of the companies doing this kind of work in North Carolina, by 2015, FLS was installing a 0.5 megawatt of solar in North Carolina every single day in that year. And over the last 3 years, outside of California, there's been more solar built in North Carolina than any other state in the country. And while the flat topography and inexpensive land of rural eastern North Carolina and the Piedmont has been the preferred location for a lot of the growth of solar in our state, as solar costs continue to decline, there are going to be many opportunities for community solar projects, solar farms, and rooftop solar systems on homes and businesses in all parts of North Carolina. Let me share just a few words about the county's commitment to 100% renewable energy. In 2013, the county adopted a goal. We thought it was a very ambitious goal at the time, and it was. Our goal was to reduce the county's carbon footprint by 80% by 2050. And there's a lot of different science that says that that's the trajectory we all need to be on as a larger economy to avoid the most severe and irreversible effects of climate change on future generations. So we needed to reduce our carbon footprint by at least 2% per year, every year, to be on that trajectory to meet that goal. That was just for county government operations. As you may have heard, the county's planning to install a 5 megawatt solar farm on our retired landfill located in Woodfin. We're excited about that project. That project alone, when we get that done, can reduce the county's government carbon footprint by about 18% by itself. So it's a great opportunity. It's the equivalent of taking 650 homes entirely off the grid. And that's all power that will be consumed, right here in our community. We are partnering with the Buncombe County School System and the Asheville City Schools to comprehensively retrofit every public school building in Buncombe County. They are the largest property owner in Buncombe County, is our school system. They own more property buildings than anybody. So we're retrofitting every school in Buncombe County with super high efficiency LED lighting systems. And in addition to the significant carbon footprint reduction that this project will achieve, it will save our school systems more than $1 million a year, which is money that can be reinvested in giving our teachers a pay raise and supporting our classroom needs. The county's also created a sustainability office, and we've hired a great guy named Jeremiah Leroy. His job is to help work within the county organization and within the community to devise strategies to help achieve these county goals. And he's going to be busy because, with the encouragement of many people who are here today, in December, the County Commission did vote to formally adopt the goal of updating our energy policy from 80% to a 100% clean and renewable energy goal. And that goal includes a commitment that the county's own operations will be 100% powered by renewable energy, not by 2050, but within 10 years, and that we endorse the goal of community 100% renewable use for the community within 25 years. So I want to thank everyone who helped advocate for that. That was not, this is a community that's very supportive of environmental protection and renewable energy. But getting that goal adopted by the Buncombe County was not a given. It took a lot of work. And just like with the Clean Smokestacks Act, there were times where it looked like it might not go through. But you know, what made it happen was that the people who cared about it just made it really clear that we're not going to go away. We're not going to stop. This needs to be adopted, and just kept on pushing and answering questions that, you know, legitimate questions people had, until we got a majority of our county commission to adopt that goal. So thank you to everyone who helped advocate for that. So I just want to close by saying that, you know, for a long time people have said that we need to have a clean energy revolution in our country. The good news is that in many ways it is already underway. And we don't have a moment to wait, because when we look at the threat that climate change poses to all future generations, we know that time is not on our side. So thank you for fighting this fight. It is the most important fight that we have before us as a society. Thank you for being part of it. Thank you for being here today. I look forward to working with you to help Buncombe County achieve our goal of 100% renewable energy.
You know, with leadership like that, how can our county go wrong? Except when it comes to finances and the other things. But anyway, thank you, Brownie. We appreciate that. When I was recognizing the groups here that have tables, I left out one very important group. The Citizens Climate Lobby is here, and they're set up, and they don't have a table, but you see the lady with the blue t-shirt? She can tell you everything you ever wanted to know about that. But they do amazing things. They have met with Congressman McHenry and Meadows. I keep having trouble saying that word, Meadows, 10 times now, I think, trying to convince them. So far they're not there, but they keep hearing that they never hear from anybody about climate change, that that's not on their constituents' radar screen. Well, she's getting what, letters or petitions that you want to sign? Yeah.
Letters to members of Congress, will hand deliver them.
Yeah. High on our agenda, and part of what this rally Michael Hayes, and Michael is a case manager with Green Opportunities. Green Opportunities' mission is to train, support, and connect people from marginalized communities to sustainable employment pathways. So Michael, come up and tell us about what you guys are doing.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me. Like I said, my name is Michael Hayes. I'm a ready-to-work case manager with Green Opportunities, but I'm also a part of the marginalized community. And I'm kind of glad I'm here to actually speak about this, because while we're doing this work, we understand that when we started Green Opportunities 10 years ago, it was actually about training our young people to do green jobs, solar paneling, insulation, just learning all about green jobs. And we're talking about, when we say the marginalized community, we're really talking about the communities where a lot of people of color were coming through getting the training that we had to offer. But as they were getting this training, the jobs kind of disappeared. So now with these, with the bills and everything, everybody pushing to get passed, we understand that green jobs are gonna allow us to have 4 times more jobs than just the regular sector, the regular like Duke Energy and whatnot. So we know green jobs actually creates more jobs. More jobs will actually create economic stability for the marginalized community, and that also gives us more of an opportunity to live better. There's a report from the state. Thank you. There's a report from the state of Black Asheville that actually talks about the emissions that are in the ground, the fact that in some of the housing developments, you have one recycle bin for a development of 300 people with apartments spread out, and the one recycle bin is in one place, so you have to walk a mile to empty your old oil or put your recyclables in the recyclable bin. Though to me that's a problem, because if those in the marginalized communities are not aware of the fact that recycling and all of that is important, then what's going to happen when the job market opens up for us to start offering these jobs? But as I look around this right now, I see like only a few people of color here that's getting the information that's needed. So I'm just wondering, what can we do to actually change that? So for me, the training starts when we're at Green Opportunities. The training we have restarted teaching those who come through about recycling, about renewable energy, and the importance of it. And as we're reaching out to different places and finding employers who are going to employ our clients, we're finding out that it is important for them to have this information, not only for themselves in the job, but for them to start understanding, for us to start understanding what renewable energy is all about. I think for us as a community, I don't try to separate the black community and Asheville, the other people of Asheville. I say we are all a community, so we all have to get to this point where we care about what's going on. I just think it's funny that there are some communities that have these beautiful gardens. Burton Street has this beautiful peach garden, and they're growing food, and they get to eat. Southside, they have this beautiful garden behind the Eddington Center, and they give food away, and people come into the cafeteria and kitchen ready program with our culinary students. They're making these delicious, healthy meals. But then I look around like, what about Diva View, who is way out on Patton Avenue with no garden? What about Klondike at the end of Montfort that doesn't have a garden? So as we talk about building and coming together with these ideas, I just want everybody here to understand, yes, I'm here on behalf of Green Opportunities because we believe in green jobs. But I'm also here because the justice of the people for marginalized communities, we get overlooked too much. So when we start creating these jobs, let's think more about creating safer places and healthier places for the people that you say you represent. Because I'm one of the people. I'm one of the people. So I'm sorry, I didn't come up here with a lot of data, and because I just want to speak from the heart. It's imperative for us as a community. I saw somebody with a sign. I like that Earth Care, People Care, Fair Share. And when I stand here and I speak for the community of people of color, I'm speaking because all we want is a fair share. All we want is the opportunity to raise our children, to see them grow up healthy, to see them eating healthy food, to not be subjected to all of the emissions that comes from the buses and all, because everybody's right by the highway. My young people in Hillcrest, there's so many of them in there that's asthmatic because they right by the highway. So I just want us to look out for each other. So I'm here hoping that with this gathering of people, and you all get together and you say, what you're going to do next in order for us to create these renewable energy jobs and in order for us to create healthy and green spaces, I hope you guys consider that those in these marginalized communities needs you just as much as everybody else, all right? I'm sorry, I hope I didn't take up too much time. I'm actually the MC of the Goombay Festival, and they are texting me like crazy to get back on stage. So thank you very much, and if you know anybody that needs to come out Green Opportunities, please send them on. Y'all have a great day, thank you.
One of the things that an hour. Think about that. How many jobs could we create locally at $26 an hour, or even if it's a little bit less than that? That's the kind of jobs we need here in this community, and if we move towards solar, we can get them. Okay, we're going to take a break from speeches for just a minute. And we want to send a real clear message to the Asheville City Council that there's a lot of people in this community that care about moving to renewable energy. So we want to get everybody to move into the middle. We want to get a big photo op, and then you can come back out and we'll have a few more speeches. So near the steps here, and so if you're on the sides, move in.
There's signs up there. You go grab the sign.
Hey, John! Come here, let's do the fun!
Okay. Bye. All right. And we're going to have some music entertainment while you're getting positioned for the photo. So I'll turn it back over to Laura. Okay, folks, we don't have that wide angle lens. You got to move in a little closer. We're a close group here. We've got shared values. It's okay to be next to each other.
What a great looking group of people. I wasn't sure what protest song to play, so I wrote this one. Look at this beautiful place, this grandeur affair, place we call home. Our Mother Earth, our Mother, old and wise, far and wide, seas and sands and great divides. Whether willing we will keep on living, and when will we change our ways? What will it take? We need to stand up now. Together we are more powerful than we know. Stand now to defend the sacred land we call home. Polluting, refuting climate science and facts, riding and slugging away behind our backs. Every moment precious creatures, plants and landscapes are lost. If we're willing to end this madness, then together we may defend the sacred land we call home. All of us are children at heart. I know that we can do this together. We must mend that which keeps us apart. I know that we can prove it together. We need to stand up now. Together we are more powerful than we know. Stand up now to defend the sacred land we call home. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for coming out and supporting the environment and clean jobs.
Wow, what a great talent, what a great message for all of us. So, your last chance to get in the photo. If you're on the sidelines, move in, get ready, because we're ready to take the photo. So smile, then we're gonna chant something while we're taking this photo. And what we're gonna chant is, voting is my superpower. 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 All right, we got another. Now we got one more chant here.
Okay, so I'd like to invite you to chant along with me. I'll say we rise, you say we rise. Okay, we rise. We rise. For climate. For climate. For jobs. For jobs. For justice. For justice. Thank you. And now for another little song. I'd like you to learn this with me and sing it back to me. People gonna rise like the water. People gonna rise like the water. Gonna solve this crisis now. Gonna solve this crisis now. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter. Saying keep it in the ground. Saying keep it in the ground. People gonna rise like the water. We're gonna solve this crisis now. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying keep it in the ground. People gonna rise like the water. We're gonna solve this crisis now. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying keep it in the ground. Thank you. Give yourselves a hand.
Thank you, guys. Go ahead and make yourself comfortable again. We have a couple more speakers, and then more great music from Laura. Okay. Sit here. Give folks a minute to get settled again. In the meantime, if I could have Cyril Wilcox, Reverend Cyril Wilcox, make her way forward. Okay, one of the things you're going to be hearing today a lot about is there's a lot of reasons we can't sit back and do nothing about climate change. And some of those are a strong belief and creation care, caring for this planet that we were given. And our next speaker is Reverend Cyril Wilcox, pastor of the Land of Sky United Church of Christ in Asheville, where folks gather to live justly, love abundantly, and walk humbly. Together they hope to cultivate space and community that nurtures the spirit and soul. They are deeply committed to stewardship of God's world so that we may all have an abundant life. Reverend Wilcox.
So I was just standing out in the crowd and someone asked me, what are churches doing about creation care? And I said, that is Creation Care Alliance, and that is Scott Hardinieri, so I want to give him a shout out. There's a nonprofit devoted to connecting churches together to do this important work. As I was getting dressed to come here, my daughter said to me, do you have a funeral to go to? And I said, the death of the earth, possibly, if we don't change our ways. It's a privilege and an honor to share this time with you today on this day that God has made in this beautiful town with so many amazing people seeking to do better in this world. In the Judeo-Christian tradition from which I come, the stories of creation provide important reference for people of faith to understand their relationship to this earth and all of its creation. In the first chapter of Genesis, in one of the creation stories that many of us have likely heard, God's work happened over a series of days. It was on the sixth day that God created humankind and placed humans in relationship with the earth and all that is in it. The text reads, "Let us make humankind in our own image, according to our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the wild animals of the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." So God created humankind in the image of the divine. God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth." God said, "See, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit, you shall have them for food. And to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has the breath of life, I have given every green plant for food." And it was so. God saw everything that had been made, and indeed, it was very good. This story, it reminds us of the goodness of creation, and for too long, it has served to capture the relationship of creation and humanity as one where dominion over excuses collective ignorance, disregards responsible long-term choices, and allows short-term trade-offs that will have lasting repercussions for generations to come. Dominion is often interpreted as power, and while power is not inherently bad, when mixed with human greed and an economic system that sees profit and expansion as its primary purpose, we begin to see the grave danger for God's creation. Dominion is about something much more important than power. When people are in power, they have a vital resource that calls for that power to be properly stewarded. Stewardship is about how we care for ourselves and the wider world in which we find ourselves, the handiwork of the Creator of all things. It is wise to remember that these two things are intimately connected. How we care for ourselves is deeply connected to how we care for the world in which we find ourselves. And how we care for the world around us will have innumerable effects on our lives. We are at a unique moment in history where we know what the costs of inaction are, and we have solutions. We aren't confused about how to make inroads. We simply need courage and an awareness that refusing to make these bold choices have costs that are unacceptable. Costs that will be borne by our children and people who already live on the margins, many whom are cast out in a system that measures growth in dollars and not human flourishing. The city of Asheville and Buncombe County often find themselves in the middle of difficult space for decision making. Too often, development becomes a golden calf that undermines our wider commitment to steward this community well. Like all things, unfettered growth is not good on its own. It is only good when it is tempered through the lens of justice. Simply put, it is not just to support development that cannot sustain living wage jobs. Simply put, it is not just to support development that doesn't have environmental concerns as a primary lens through which decisions are made. Governments have to find innovative ways to partner with nonprofits, to move forward common vision and invite for-profit ventures to innovate for the common good. When we operate as if expansion and profit is a good in itself, we fail to take seriously our obligation to steward the resources before us. Too often we serve the false idols of development, expansion, and profit when we accept lower standards than what is necessary to achieve the common good. The primary good is how we care for this creation, those around us, and ourselves. Balancing our needs and desires so that all are invited into abundant life. Here's the thing, our imagination, it has to be bigger, and it will only be big enough when we join together. There are many reasons why people are not actively engaged in this work today, and while some may be in opposition to it, others may lack information and motivation. Not because they don't want it, but because they simply don't have the ability to make this issue their issue. The vast injustices perpetrated in our nation are born on the backs of those who are already on the precipice of crisis. And it is inherent upon people of privilege to realize how a rising global temperature may be a crisis of luxury, depending on where you sit. If you can't pay the electric bill, you don't know how to get food on the table, or you are struggling to be liberated for an opioid addiction, you may have greater issues on the top of your list. This work cannot be done in a vacuum that ignores the vast failures of our culture, often multiplied by big corporations, whether it be electric companies with a monopoly on how we get our energy, big pharma, or manufacturing done without care for disposal of waste. The ramifications of how these actions by large entities have impacted individuals and human flourishing is not inconsequential. And too often, sorting through the mess of our cultural injustices keeps us from this larger conversation about the earth we are called to steward. Together, we are called to the important work of moving forth an alternative vision that helps people enter into this important work as if it is their own work, because it is. An alternative vision is never easy to move forth. It first has to illuminate the reasons why the controlling narrative is not enough. It does that best by demonstrating the new narrative in action. In my community of faith, we believe deeply that our work is to move forward an alternative vision where we can live justly, love abundantly, and walk humbly. If by chance we succeed in faithfully transforming ourselves and the world around us, it will be because we were able to honor and engage the various collective movements at hand. It is messy, it is painful, it demands the best of each of us. I like to call it an experiment because it always is, but to be honest, the stakes are too high for us to fail. Today, our city has an opportunity to join many other cities in the important work of moving toward 100% renewable energy. We wouldn't be the first. There are plenty of cities across the globe who have worked to move toward this goal and are making significant inroads. We would be in good company with people who know our liberation from the impacts of environmental devastation created by our own choices are solvable when we come together. These solutions will require bold actions by our government, by nonprofits, and movements who are connected for the collective common good. These partnerships, they will require collective sacrifice, shifting priorities, and bold imagination. Who better than us? This city. And what better time than right now? Faith communities have a vital role in creating a clear mandate for guiding us forward. For it is in religious communities that we commit to important conversations about that which we value. If you find yourself in a community of faith that has nothing to say about the continuing dismantling of policy that protects our environment, then you might consider who is served by your community of faith. Faith communities are called to complex thinking about the realities before us, and they ought to see science as a partner in understanding the needs of creation. Climate change is not only real, it is really important to address. Individually and collectively, we need to be imagining how we can move forward the future that ensures an ongoing future for generations to come. But faith communities aren't where the greatest resources lie all the time. Great resources lie in faith communities, but very few faith communities are resourced in such a way to make major investments like solar on their own. At the same time, they are perfect partners for solar with big roofs and land that could help move forward a greater vision. They are perfect laboratories to prove the benefits of energy improvements in commercial spaces. Partnerships that help further the commitments of faith communities are vital to our ability to move forward bold visions of that for which we hope. As a faith leader, I don't see my work as simply moving people along their own personal path toward communion with God. I also see my work as opening eyes and ears and hearts and cultivating imagination for the hoped-for future. And saying yes when opportunities present themselves for collaboration toward that hoped-for future. We won't get there on our own. We can all drive a hybrid and put solar panels on our houses, and we won't be the movement. And I am guilty as charged of both of those things. The movement always has to intersect with layers of complex movements and complex layers of involvements. So keep your eyes open, keep your hearts open, and continue to imagine. Rise for the change we desire. Rise for justice in our neighborhoods, in our policies. Rise to the promise that good jobs empowering a collective good are ours to create and make possible. One last sentence. Oh, let's make Dominion a stewardship of collective caring. And let us not wait, for the time truly is now. May it be so.
We have so many impressive people in this community. We're so lucky to have people like the Reverend. So thank you. One of the things we've learned is that wind power is now the cheapest form of new energy that can be developed. We also know, and you heard Brownie talk about some of the statistics, in most parts of the country, solar power is now on par with natural gas as far as new solar power. And it's going down, whereas natural gas will likely come up. In fact, there's projections to say that it could come down another 10% per year for solar going forward. So it will clearly be the most cost-effective way for us to get new energy is renewable energy. Unfortunately, we've got a very entrenched fossil fuel industry and some utilities that still don't quite get it. And they are doing some projects that, quite frankly, are going to be expensive for ratepayers in the long run because they're not going to be cost effective and morally the wrong way to go if we're going to do it. Our next speaker is Kathy Holt. Kathy is a former elementary school. I'm sorry, it's Kathy Scott. Yeah. I gave Kathy Holt a moment of panic there. One of those great Kathys. They're both amazing volunteers that never stop in doing things. So easily confused. Anyway, Kathy Scott. Kathy is a retired former elementary school counselor in the Asheville City Schools. She's a portrait painter and a citizen activist. I should say an untiring citizens activist. She's everywhere all the time, working on all the right causes. For the last 10 years, she's been using her art and design skills to help communicate and bring attention to the problem of climate change and the impact it's going to have on both human and non-human communities. She seeks to communicate in very clear and fact-filled ways the many avenues that we have eyes to see, hearts to care, and we have to take positive and powerful actions if we're going to stop the destruction of our planet. So, Kathy, come on up.
Hello, it's great to be here. It was so lovely to hear Sarah Wilcox speak. I feel like I'm still in a blessed place. And because of that, I'm going to quote from another reverend, William Sloane Coffin, who said, "The world is too dangerous for anything but truth and too small for anything but love." Yes. And I want to express my loving great gratitude to Brownie Newman, if he's still here, for the years that he has devoted to taking this community to the place where it is now. And I'd also like to thank Julie Mayfield, who I think is coming at some point, for her continued care and work on climate issues, both with Mountain True and with the City Council. And Ken Brame. Thank you, Ken, for your work for years and years. So now I'm going to return to the danger and the truth. And I am going to paint you a picture of the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the pipeline. Okay, I see one shake, so good. I'm here for you. Okay, the Atlantic Coast Pipeline is a project of our public utility, Duke Energy. And it would start in West Virginia, where it would wrench gas from the shale fields there, and then stuff them into a pipeline that would have been dragged through West Virginia and Virginia, through the beautiful Allegheny Mountains and the Blue Ridge Mountains, over the hills and through the ancient forests that exist there. And it would make its way to the Virginia-North Carolina line, where it would take a little turn and trench its way through 8 counties in North Carolina. It would be passing through farmland. It would be passing through traditional African American communities. It would be passing through small, once thriving, no longer thriving communities. It would be going through waterways, aquifers, streams, rivers, drinking water for many people. It would also be passing through land that was the ancestral homes of the Meherrin tribe, the Halawassaponi tribe, the Tuscarora, and the Lumbee. So this would be so that it could deliver fracked gas to all of Duke Energy's electric generating plants, which we know is the wrong direction to be going. It's a travesty. The Atlantic Coast Pipeline is a travesty. Thank you. And it is absolutely antithetical to everything that we are here today to support. The signs that say rise for jobs, climate, and justice. Well, the Atlantic Coast Pipeline thumbs its nose at all 3 of those. Jobs, if we allow the pipeline to be built, that commits our public utility to 30 plus years of using fracked gas fossil fuel. And the jobs that could have been developed in solar and wind and hydro, if we had a public commitment to those things and we're not locked in by our public utility, we would have jobs. We would have an enormous economy related to renewable energy. If you look at justice, well, where is the justice of running this pipeline through those communities I mentioned, deliberately routing the pipeline through the poorer and less well organized and in every way fragile communities? And as far as the climate, the idea of committing us to those 30 years of frack gas energy mean that the work that Brownie has done, that Julie has done, that Ken has done, and that all of us have done is that much harder, tremendously much harder. So I ask you today to learn more about the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. There are a couple of us here today who've worked on it for a long time. including folks over there holding the banner. ACP, cross it out. And up there by the RISE sign, which is now obscured, but it's really there, are some flyers with one thing that you can do. It's one phone call to Mr. Big, Governor Cooper, asking him to call a halt, even a temporary halt. There are so many unanswered questions about the pipeline, and we need those answers, and we're convinced that the answers would indicate this is a really bad idea. So again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking whatever action you can and are willing to do. Thank you for caring and asking your neighbor to care and doing all the great things I know so many of you do all the time. Thank you.
Well, again, you heard the great things that the county's done for setting a 100% renewable energy goal, and that they're working to make that happen. It's not just on paper. So it's now time for the city of Asheville to step up and do the same thing. We call ourselves Climate City. We've got the national data. We have more climate data than any place in the world right here in Asheville. We've got the collider right next to this park that's creating jobs to make clean energy happen. There's no reason Asheville shouldn't be leading in that charge. One of the speakers we hope to have here today was City Councilwoman Julie Mayfield. Julie was out on a camping trip this weekend, out enjoying nature, and she's not going to be able to get back in time to speak. So she asked us to send you her apologies for not getting back in time, but to let you know that she's championing the cause of leading Asheville to 100% renewable energy. So if you see her, thank her for that. So let's talk about the process. What are the steps for Asheville to go from where they are today, which is a 80% carbon reduction goal, to where we want them to be? There's 3 steps. The first step, the city has a number of committees, citizen committee, advisory committees. One of those we call SACE, which is, and I should know the exact words for that, but it's our Sustainability Commission. And they have spent several months looking at this, analyzing it. They have now recommended and voted to move this to City Council for them to approve. So step 1, check mark. Next step happens this coming Monday. There's a subcommittee, the Economic Development Subcommittee of the City Council will be meeting, and they will be looking at this. We'll be trying to answer any questions they have, and our goal is for them to recommend that to the full council and have the Asheville City Council pass it at their September 25th meeting. Now, what's it going to take to make that happen? It's going to mean that we have got to let the City Council know that there's overwhelming community support for making that happen. And I want to talk a little bit about some of the coalition things going on, but before I talk more, I want to introduce Carolyn Anderson, who's chair of the 100% Sustainability Committee, which is a coalition of 20 groups. Go ahead, Carolyn, tell them about it.
Hello, everybody in Asheville. Woo! What a great crowd. I'm the chair of the Western North Carolina Renewables Coalition. It is a group of 20 environmental and other groups that belong to this coalition. I don't have any prepared speaks because I wasn't expecting to speak, so I might stumble a bit. Nonetheless, here we are. What we have done is come together. We've been together for a little over a year. And we started with just 6, and over the year, more and more groups have joined us in order to enlarge and enhance the voices of each of our groups, and all of us are doing wonderful things for the environment in various and sundry ways. But our goal, together as a coalition, is to encourage the city of Asheville to pass a very, very robust and just resolution for 100% clean, renewable energy. It is our goal to get that passed in September of this year. 1 year later. It's so exciting. The best thing that happened to us was on August 15th when the Sustainability Advisory Committee for Energy and the Environment, which is SACE, used our recommended resolution for their wording for the resolution they were going to pass on to the city. That was such a huge honor for us. We have been working with them, we've been working with the city council members, we have been working with other organizations around the city to bring this into the public eye. And this is a wonderful opportunity for us to let you guys know how much we have done and how much we are depending on you to bring us to the final goalpost. So there are petitions at Sierra Club and at the WNCRC table under the blue awning. We need you to sign, every single person in this place to sign those petitions. They're the same petition, they're just in different forms. And we need your voices to be heard by the city. On the 25th of September, we're going to bring those petitions to the city council and we're going to present them. We also have coming up in the next week an online petition. So look for that under the auspices of the, I think it's, what is it? I think it's the Center for Biological Diversity. I'm not sure how that's going to get out yet. But we'll let you know. Sign on there, give us your email address so we can keep you up to date on what's happening. And let's let the city know that we are supportive of this resolution. And also, I just want to say that the resolution that they have written, that we have helped them with, is one of the strongest and most complex and most robust resolutions in the state of North Carolina. Go Asheville! Thank you.
Okay, I'm starting to feel some mist. I'm going to wrap up with about 4 sentences here and let you guys go get out of the rain here. But step one, you can't leave today unless you sign the petition that we can give to City Council. So that's the first thing you have to do. Second thing you have to do, look for this online petition, which will actually be a letter you can send to City Council, or send your own letter to City Council letting them know how important passing this is now. The third thing you've got to do, you can get involved with volunteer for one of the groups, Sierra Club, any number of groups would love to have you get involved with our organizations. And the last thing is, don't forget to vote. We've got to change the leadership if we want to change the results. So we challenge everybody to make sure you vote, all of your friends vote, and anybody else you know of can vote. So get everybody you know to sign the petition, everybody you know to contact City Council, and everybody you know to vote. Thank you for coming out today.
When the air we breathe is under attack, what do? Stand up, fight back. When the water we drink is under attack, what do? Stand up, fight back. When our planet is under attack, what do? Stand up, fight back. Wonderful. I'm going to ask people to call out, what do you rise for? So for instance, I'll say, somebody shout out, for our future, and then everybody will shout out, we rise. Okay, ready? Somebody shout it out, for our future.
For our future.
We rise.
For our children.
We rise. We rise. We rise. We rise. We rise.
For water.
For water, we rise. For green jobs, we rise. Okay, wonderful. For democracy, we rise. Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Awesome. Here's one more chant for you. No more corporate greed. Renewables are what we need. Where's those drummers? Come on now, drummers. No more corporate greed. Renewables are what we need. No more corporate greed. Renewables are what we need. No more corporate greed. Renewables are what we need. Thank you all for coming out.